Hi, I'm Cindy, and this is Joy and Bella Chica. We're here at Stillpoint Studies, and today we're going to be talking about essential oil myths and some misinformation that's out there. A lot of times on social media, on the internet, you'll read some stuff about essential oils and how to use essential oils, and some of it can be quite confusing actually, because there's a lot out there and people are writing, and some of it's true and some of it's not true. And so today we're going to talk about some of those things.
And a lot of these myths and misunderstandings that we're going to talk about are from our students and from phone calls we get at Stillpoint Aromatics. And the thing is that a lot of times on social media, or if you go to your chiropractor or massage therapist or whoever, and they tell you to use a certain oil because it comes from an authoritative
source.
Yeah, an authoritative source, or someone who thinks they're an authoritative source, then people just believe it and they start using oils in that way.
And it can be really quite confusing. So we're here today to hopefully make those myths and less confusing for you.
Pick a myth.
How about the one where the guy stuck his hand in the bucket of lavender?
Okay, so that's the myth about Gadaphos. And everyone that's watching, you had to hear it, and that's the way that aromatherapy is supposed to have been started. So there's this perfumer, Gadaphos, and he's in his lab, and he gets covered with a chemical, he goes on fire. And so the way the story goes is he puts his hand in a bucket of lavender that he has, and he has no burns. Well, it's sort of true, but it's really quite ridiculous because I don't really know anybody that has a bucket of lavender open in any kind of studio, lab, anything.
We don't have that.
No, we don't. No. And so anyway, so what really happened is that he was in his lab, he did catch on fire. But what he did is he ran outside, he rolled around on the grass to put the fire out, and he had gangrenous burns on his hands. And so he applied lavender to it, and he was quite impressed with the healing properties of it. So it was an intentional application, not just a freak type of thing. And that is so widely believed. It's taught in classes, it's in books, it's on websites. So I call it one of the urban myths of aromatherapy. Just like when I was a kid, a long time ago, when we would go trick-or-treating, the myth was don't accept an apple from anybody because they put razor blades in it. And I mean, that was just a basic understanding. You didn't accept fruit, apple, nothing, unless it was wrapped. So I did some research on it, never happened. And so that's what an urban myth is, something that never happened and becomes truth.
So one of the others that you might have heard about that is quite popular out there is one of these myths, is that lavender and tea tree are estrogenic, and it's actually not true. There's been some research, confusing research back and forth. One was saying that lavender and tea tree actually caused teenage boys to grow breasts, and the term for that is gynecomastia.
Yep, good for you.
Yeah, not too bad. And so actually Robert Tisserand wrote a blog post about that, showing how that was not true. And we do have some research that lavender and tea tree are not estrogenic. I think it was about using a hair gel or some kind of a body care product that had lavender and tea tree in it. And then, you know, there's been the discussion that there are these phthalates in the plastic that this body care product was in, but hopefully that's clearing up the lavender and tea tree myth that's out there, because then people were afraid to use lavender and tea tree around their kids, their little boys, because, you know, moms didn't know what to do, whether to use lavender or not, and it's one of the most lovely oils around.
It is. So lavender is safe for everybody. It's safe for everyone. It's safe for pregnant mamas. It's safe for breastfeeding mamas. It's a safe oil. There's nothing estrogenic or hormone interrupters in that oil at all. Pick another one.
Okay, how about if you don't like the aroma of an essential oil, then you need it?
What do you think?
I think that's baloney.
I do too. I think it's another word, okay? But, and it is, it's not true, actually. If you don't like it, then you just don't like it. And there are plenty of oils that you could use to substitute if you don't like one oil. There are a couple that you can't replace. So some of the oils that are one of a kind are Helichrysum italicum, Cistus, Divana. You really can't replace them.
There are a few.
Yeah, they're chemically unique, and so if you're looking for that chemical component and that therapeutic effect, you need to have those oils. But otherwise, any oil really can almost be replaced. That's why we're not big on recipes. I think recipes are a great jumping off point, because some of you might say, well, if you're not big on them, why do you give us some? And that's why we give them to you. We give them to you as a jumping off point, so that way you can kind of see what's in the blend, or kind of see how these different oils interact, and then you can go from there and replace them, and you can create your own blend. Because the whole part about learning about essential oils and working with them is so that you can be your own pioneer and go off and what do pioneers do? You can
forge through the forest.
You can be your own pioneer and make your own discoveries, instead of just following the same old road.
Just to add on to what Joy was just saying, is we give a lot of substitutions for people. So I mean, we know that some of the oils, like Helichrysum italicum, are kind of pricey, but as Joy said, that one really does not have a substitution that you can bring in. But then there are others like Melissa, that one of the lemony aldehydes that you can substitute. Another lemony aldehyde essential oil for.
Yep, so a substitution for that would be lemon-scented ironbark, honey myrtle, Eucalyptus stagierana. So there are a couple that are kind of equal in chemical component.
Yes, absolutely.
Pick another.
How about the detoxing? So there's a myth out there that if you use an essential oil and you have any kind of a skin reaction to it, that it's a detox reaction. And that really is another one that is not true at all.
And actually, some of you might be saying, oh, well, that's ridiculous, I never would believe it. But lots of people do, and there are a lot of teachers and people on the internet and different even aromatherapy companies that perpetuate that. And we have a story that really is quite disturbing, but we'll share it with you. So we had a friend who had breast cancer, and she went to see an aromatherapist to help her with that. So the master aromatherapist told her what oils to use, and there are about like 20 oils. And
beware when somebody says they're a master.
Yeah, really, run the other way. And so, anyway, so they told her about these 20 oils to apply them to the breast area, and some of the oils were oregano, some of them were, one was pennyroyal. I mean, really tough oils, some even toxic. So, someone that has breast cancer and really wants to heal, and this isn't a way to heal where the chemo wasn't working, she followed the instructions. And about, 3 weeks into it, she had sores all over underneath her breasts, on her breasts. So she called the master and she said, this is what's happening. And what she was told was that this is the cancer coming out. And so, which
quite frightening.
It was frightening. So what we did, because she didn't want to give up the protocol, is we just took the oils from her and threw them away.
Yeah, not good. And that goes right into Joy, neat usage.
That does. So there are some people that say neat only. And then there are some people that say never neat. And then there are some people that say you have to blend only at 1 to 3%. And none of them are true. There is a time where neat usage is appropriate.
With proper training.
Yes, with proper training. With proper training. If you're going to attempt to use oils neat, you want to be at least a certified aromatherapist. And that's a good question to ask anybody that tells you to use an oil in any way. Your question should be, thank you so much, but can you tell me what school that you went to and where you got your 200-hour certification? And if the answer is I didn't, then you don't want to listen, because they don't know what they're talking about.
And sometimes even you need more than 200 hours of just being a certified aromatherapist. And there are lots of programs out there, including ours, where you can get some advanced training and become an advanced practitioner.
Yeah, and if you're going to use oils neat, you really need to be an advanced practitioner. And but to know that the no neat usage is it's inaccurate, because there are times when that's indicated. And blending at 1 to 3% is a really safe window to blend in, and if you blend at 1 to 3%, you'll do no harm. But there are times when you would blend at 5, 10, even 25%, even 50-50. But to blend like that, you really need extensive training. But to walk around telling people that 1 to 3 is it, or that no neat usage, you are perpetuating myths.
Our belief really is always balance. Find the balance between, and know the proper times when to use an oil at the 1 to 3% dilution topical, when to use an oil neat, when to take an oil internally. And if you don't know those things, please go for some extra training.
Pick another one.
How about the citrus myth?
Oh, okay. So one of the myths, and one of the questions we get in class all the time.
All the time. This is one that confuses a lot of people.
That there is an assumption that all citrus oils are phototoxic. Want to tell what that is?
So phototoxic is when you apply, and it usually does happen with citrus oils, but it can happen with some other oils as well. So it's not just citruses. The myth is that orange, all citruses.
You're telling what phototoxic is first.
Oh, sorry, phototoxic. Okay, so phototoxic is when you have a skin reaction, a burn actually is starting to happen on your skin when you apply an oil and you go out into the sun. We had a story here of a chiropractor in town who was working with a client who was depressed. And bergamot is an essential oil that a lot of people use for depression and help relieve depression.
And the chiropractor was trained in neat usage only. So he told the lady, put bergamot on your chest area so you could have the effect of the aroma, and then go relax. So she did.
This lady went to a tanning bed after her chiropractic appointment. And this is after she applied the bergamot to her chest here so that she could get the vapors of the bergamot. She went to the tanning bed and she actually had 3rd-degree burns and had to go to the emergency room for treatment for those 3rd-degree burns from the use of neat bergamot, because bergamot is highly phototoxic if it's cold pressed.
But then it's not just neat usage of bergamot. Bergamot blended at a low dilution is phototoxic too. And another example that you may have seen actually and not been aware that it's actually phototoxicity is if you go on a cruise. I don't like to go on cruises, I get seasick, but if you go on a cruise and you go to get a margarita, which I highly recommend, then you'll look at the guy's hands squeezing the lime and they'll be all discolored. And that's from the coumarins, right? In the lime juice. So most citruses that are cold pressed are phototoxic, with the exception of
orange
and mandarin,
sweet orange
and mandarin,
yes,
and tangerine, and blood orange. They're not phototoxic even though they're cold pressed.
So citrus sinensis, which is sweet orange, is not phototoxic. It's cold pressed, but it is not phototoxic.
But bitter orange, which comes from the neroli tree, which is Citrus aurantium var amara, is. So just by the citrus sinensis. And if you want to be using essential oils, like let's say you're making a lip balm. You want your lip balms to taste good. So everyone's like, oh, I'm going to use lime. And so let's say you do use lime. So you put a lot of lime in it and it tastes really good. And if it's cold pressed lime and you go skiing, you're going to burn your lips. But if you use steam distilled, you won't.
So any steam distilled citrus will not be phototoxic.
Okay? Any steam distilled citrus is not phototoxic.
Can I tell one more story? We had a friend of ours in Phoenix. We get a lot of sun. It's Arizona, right? And he loved to make his own cologne. So he would take lime essential oil, very manly, and he would apply it, kind of like an aftershave kind of a thing.
Just here, like a perfume?
Well, he showed us that he had these skin burns that did not go away.
It was discoloration.
Discoloration.
Like too dark
from the
lines.
use of lime, neat, and because it was cold pressed, and he went out into the sun because we're here in Arizona. So, not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
The citrus oils, the phototoxic, it's quite a serious thing to consider.
It is.
Okay, but we wanted to clear up that little bit of confusion because we get that question all the time.
We do, and in fact, there are some essential oil programs that we've heard that is teaching that orange is phototoxic, and it isn't. It's a safe oil to use.
Okay, just remember, sweet orange, Citrus sinensis, not phototoxic.
And steam distilled citruses, not phototoxic. So if you don't want to have to think about it, and if you say, oh my goodness, now they're confusing me, just buy the steam distilled, then you don't have to worry.
It's an easy way to remember and to make your lip balms and not have to worry about burning your lips.
Yeah. Pick another.
How about the use of some of those citruses and some essential oils in a glass of water?
Yeah, this is a huge one actually, and so we get lots of people that come into the shop. We get lots of students and stuff that say that they're putting oil in water. And if you're doing that, cease and desist. Do not do that because it's dangerous. You know, if you want lemon in your water, squeeze it. You know, and if you want some peppermint in your water, use the plant and mash it up like you would do for a mojito and drink it that way. Make a tea because it's really quite dangerous, and it doesn't seem dangerous because you're like, well, it's just a little essential oil. They're wonderful, they're plants, they're benevolent, and they taste good, so I'm just going to put it in much easier than squeezing a lemon. And it's a big mistake because what happens is the lemon, any essential oil that you put in water, floats on the top. The essential oil doesn't like water, the essential oils like fat. So they are lipophilic, right? Not hydrophilic, lipophilic, meaning they're fat loving. So when you have essential oil in water and you drink it, then what is the fat is your whole gastrointestinal tract. So you have your mouth mucosa that's being affected and the whole gastrointestinal tract. So we have had so many students and so many people come in the shop that have been drinking essential oils and multiple during the day. You know, just put it in, shake it up and drink it. And they've had terrible gastrointestinal
Ulcerations
problems.
can happen. We've heard that happen. People have actually shown us photographs, you know, when they put the camera in and do the little scope thing. They've shown us pictures of the ulcerations that actually occur.
So I mean, and unfortunately, there are companies that are really perpetuating this, and they're hurting people. You know, peppermint is good for digestion, but if you're going to take peppermint for digestion, you need to take an enteric-coated peppermint
Capsule.
Enteric-coated peppermint capsule, because the thing is that you want the peppermint to be released in the intestines, not in the stomach. You'll burn a hole through your stomach
Or your mouth.
Right? And also putting lemon in water, grapefruit in water, it's not a weight loss trick. It just is giving you a high monoterpene oil, which can be quite irritating in your gastrointestinal tract.
Absolutely.
Why so sorry?
We had a student in our class who was working with one of the big companies that, you know, tell people to drink essential oils in their water. And she told us that she was working with this company, but she didn't actually disclose how much essential oil she was actually drinking in her water every day.
No, when she came to class the first day of the ACP, you introduce yourself, and she said how she just came through a really bad illness. She had every test known to mankind.
And they couldn't find anything wrong.
Nothing wrong.
And then by week 3, because it's a 15-day program, she raised her hand and she said, I think I know why I wasn't feeling well. I think I know why I was ill. She said, I'm not going to tell you because I'm highly embarrassed. She said, but you don't know how many drops of water how many drops of essential oil I was putting in my water. And she said, and I feel better because I stopped doing that.
Yep, she was all better. And the thing is if you are doing that, I don't know how many drops you or people you know are putting in the water, but just as a guide, if you are treating yourself or somebody with essential oils orally, and that's internal treatment, and that you really need to be extensively trained. But if you are, the maximum number of drops really per day that should be ingested when you're using it as medicine is 9 to 12 drops, and that's based on body weight.
And that's properly diluted with a carrier, internal.
Yeah.
So please don't put drops of oil in your water and think that it tastes great and it's okay because it's just a drop of lemon.
We had this other lady came to one of our weekend workshops, and we were talking about this, and she said, I was told that grapefruit was really good for weight loss. She says, my husband is like a little fat. So she said, so I wanted to help him lose weight. So she took grapefruit and she filled the capsule with just grapefruit essential oil. And
she did not put a carrier even in the capsule.
And she gave it to him. And so he called her up about 3 hours into work and he said, I'm burping furniture polish and I will never let you help me again.
She laughed. She said, but I could have killed him, couldn't I?
Really? Well, I don't know if she could have killed him, but...
What she was thinking, I don't know. Trying to help.
Trying to help.
Yes. How about using essential oils as preventatives, kind of like on the same vein, isn't it?
We get that a lot. People call us up and they ask if they can take frankincense internally or turmeric internally. Those are the big ones, really, that they ask. And we'll say, well, why? Why? That's what we ask. That's the question we ask first. Why are you using this internally? And so
Always.
a lot of the responses we get is that we want to prevent cancer. We want to prevent a cold. We want to prevent
flu, as preventative.
Preventative. And I think and if you really think about it, it's really one of the most ridiculous concepts, because the analogy would be, and I'll ask you this question, if you're doing that, do you get up every day and take 2 Advil round the clock to prevent your headache? It's the same thing.
Hopefully not.
No, well, hopefully not. Maybe, no. But it's the same thing. Essential oils are not preventative. You can use them to help boost your immune system. And your creams, if you make a shower gel, if you.
There are plenty of ways to use essential oils safely. Okay, hopefully you're really getting that there are these myths out there, but we're also really highly suggesting, with proper training, there are certain times that you can use oils internally and neat, but it's not just a casual usage.
And this is not a plug for our school, although it is a fantastic school, but there are lots of really good teachers that are out there.
Absolutely. So how about the myth that shelf life and oils, have you heard that essential oils get better with age?
I have heard that. Lots of people have heard that. And that is not necessarily a myth, but it would be a misunderstanding.
It is. So, for example, and this really goes back to the chemistry of the essential oils, there are some essential oils that actually do get better with age. You may have heard or seen some companies that have vintage patchouli.
Vintage patchouli. The oils that do get better with age generally are the sesquiterpenes and sesquiterpenol oils. They're the heavy oils. Patchouli, sandalwood, vetiver, cedarwood, ruku. They get better. They do get better with age. But we're not saying they get better if they're 100 years old. I mean, even that's going to turn around. But 15 years. Some people have 20-year vintage patchouli, and
it's quite lovely.
It's lovely and quite expensive. And some of the oils, like agar wood, they actually increase in price the older that they get. But there are a bunch of oils that do have a shelf life, and a short shelf life, like lemon, orange, and then as the chemistry...
A lot of the monoterpene oils?
Yeah, pine. And as the chemistry changes, so does the shelf life, which is true. Now, the other part of the misunderstanding is that people think that the oil actually knows when it's supposed to expire. And so that is not true. There's a lot of stuff that has to do with factors that has to do with the shelf life of an oil. From the beginning, it's from the farmer who plants it, how the farmer tends it, how the farmer harvests it, how the distiller distills it, how it's kept until it goes to the essential oil company, how the essential oil company keeps it. All of those are factors in the shelf life of an essential oil. So really, you can have the same essential oil bought from the same farmer, and it goes to a company, and then the way that they take care of it is a big influence on the shelf life. So just because a general belief is that, let's say, orange is 1 to 2 years, it's not necessarily true. And if you have an orange that's 2 years old and you throw it out because it has a 2-year mark, you may be throwing out perfectly good oil. So the analogy is this. You have a cup of tea, and you have cream, because I only like heavy cream. You have heavy cream. And so you get your tea, you get your cream, and you look at the date. And the date says May 14th. And you say, oh, I have 2 weeks left. And then you get a date, and you say, and it says April 12th. And meanwhile, it's like May 13th. And so you say, oh my God, that's garbage, and you're gonna throw it out. So if you take it out of the refrigerator and you smell the one that is April 14th, but it's a month old and it's good, that means you can use it. I mean, that means it's still good. And you would. If you take the one that is supposed to have 2 weeks left and you put the cream in and it curdles, well, guess what? That's not good. And so you should get rid of it. I don't know anybody that would pour that in, look at it, and say, wow, I have 2 weeks, yum, let me drink it. So the bottom line is you have to know your oils. You just have to know your oils. And once you know them, you'll know if they change. You'll know if it changes in vibrancy. You'll know if it changes in energy. You'll know if it changes in aroma.
So basically, if you know your oils, and if you know a little bit about chemistry, like we said, there are some essential oils that do get better with age. But you need to know which ones, and you also need to say, I don't think I necessarily have to follow the date on the bottle exactly to know whether my oil is good or not.
Yeah, truly, and especially if they're stored correctly. So we store our oils in refrigerators. They're in 32-ounce amber bottles. They're filled with nitrogen, so there's no air. And so and that's what we pour your oils from. So you can ask the company that you're dealing with, how do you store your oils? How do you pour your oils? And it'll give you a good indication.
About shelf life?
About shelf life and about quality.
So you may have heard that some people use essential oils as they would use herbs. Do you believe that to be true?
I don't believe it to be true. I have a good story. Do you remember our friend in the gym?
Our friend in the gym.
Yep.
Yes.
So what happened is, this is a good story too. And so we had a friend who was our trainer. I don't like to exercise, but I went anyway. And so we had a friend who was a trainer, and she was using hyssop essential oil. And hyssop essential oil is really one of the ones that you really have to know about it.
There are a lot of safety concerns with hyssop.
Tons and tons. Not hyssop 1,8 cineol, not hyssop decumbens, but the hyssop officinalis.
But this can be confusing. It's one of those misunderstandings out there.
Yep. And so she was using hyssop essential oil. And hyssop is fantastic for respiratory issues. And so she had heard that if you have a respiratory issue, you can drink hyssop tea. So she just assumed that if you could drink hyssop tea, that you could drink hyssop essential oil as a tea. So she put a couple of drops of hyssop officinalis essential oil on lemon in tea, and she drank it. And then 15 minutes later, she was seizing on the floor. Had to go up to the hospital in Flagstaff.
Hyssop has neurotoxic concerns, safety concerns.
And so really for most herbs that are distilled, it's not interchangeable. You know,
so if you're thinking that you want to use this herb, or if you read somewhere out there that there's an herbal remedy, just drink the cup of tea.
Use the herbal remedy. I mean, people do use essential oils in cooking. I do. So I make this great pasta. Great sauce. My mother taught me. It's great. So, but a big pot of sauce, I put 1 drop of sweet basil in and 1 drop of oregano in, and that's all it needed. So if any of you cook sauce and if you use the fresh herb, you know you need a lot more than that to flavor the sauce. So that's how powerful they are.
Very powerful. In fact, it takes, isn't it 60 roses?
Yep, between 40 and 60 roses to make 1 drop of rose essential oil, steam distilled.
So rose is one of those pricey essential oils. It's very precious, and that's the reason why. It takes a lot of rose petals to be distilled to create 1 drop of that essential oil, of rose otto essential oil. So that's another question that we get a lot. How come some essential oils are so pricey? And that's the reason. It takes a lot of plant material, it takes a lot of rose petals, it takes a lot of stuff that goes into the still to just get 1 drop of essential oil.
So it's really quite sacred in a way. And we feel all oils are actually, and that they should really be treated like that and treated with the respect that they really deserve, because they're really, really powerful.
So, speaking of, I have here a bottle of Hydrosol. People constantly say to us, can I make my own Hydrosol? There's a lot of confusion out there about what actually a Hydrosol is. And so we distill here. We have a distillation workshop and we have 3 stills. And until you actually participate and distill and see what actually happens, people don't really get what a Hydrosol is. They think they can make them by taking just plain water and putting a few drops of essential oil in that, and that's a Hydrosol.
And shake.
Hydrosols are actually made through the steam distillation process. So what happens is when you do put that plant material into the still, and the water boils, okay, you're going to have steam distillation in the pot happening. The water boils and it cools and condenses, and what comes off is the Hydrosol. And that's the water part of the distillation process, and it does contain tiny microscopic molecules of essential oil that you really cannot see because they're evenly dispersed in the water, but that's basically what a Hydrosol is.
So when you do the distillation, what happens is you get like chicken soup. You have the broth and then you have the fat on top. The fat on top is the essential oil and the broth is the Hydrosol. So they have the same therapeutic properties pretty much.
A lot of.
Yeah, the Hydrosol is much weaker.
Dilute.
And it has the water-soluble parts of the essential oil in it.
So you can't create your own Hydrosol. You cannot at home unless you have a still and do steam distillation for Hydrosols and essential oils.
And Hydrosols and fragrant waters are not the same thing. And if you do have some Hydrosols and they're extremely fragrant, you don't have Hydrosol.
Hydrosols are much weaker in aroma. They are dilute for sure, but they do have great therapeutic properties for sure. But they're not just a body spray. You know, we make body sprays in our class, and we can do that. That's just water, but this is actually part of the steam distillation process. So that's what a Hydrosol is. And there are great ways to use Hydrosols therapeutically.
What's another one?
So there's another one out there about frankincense. Have you heard about using frankincense to treat cancer?
Yes, I have actually. Actually, we get many calls about that. Many, because lots of people are dealing with some sort of cancer. And so they've heard that if you use frankincense, that frankincense will cure cancer. And that is, it's not true. Frankincense essential oil doesn't contain anything that will help cure cancer or affect cancer. The anti-tumoral component that exists in frankincense is boswellic acid, and it exists in the gum, in the resin. It doesn't exist in the essential oil. When it's steam distilled, those particles are too big. They don't pass into the distillation, into the essential oil or into the Hydrosol. So there's absolutely no research on that. The only thing that we've heard from students has been that they have used frankincense topically, and it has helped with some minor skin cancers, but that's it. So if you hear about frankincense and someone asks you, is it good for cancer, just please start to dispel that urban myth, because it's one of the most dangerous ones.
And this is taking frankincense internally. So we actually had a friend of ours who told us that they received an email from another friend that they were using frankincense, putting drops of frankincense essential oil in their smoothie in the morning. And 3 days later, they started to develop gastrointestinal issues. They weren't feeling well, and as soon as they stopped using the frankincense in their smoothie, their gastrointestinal issues cleared up. So there's a huge myth and a misunderstanding and a lot of confusion. We read about it all the time on social media, Facebook, about the use of essential oils around pets. There are certain essential oils, especially with cats. Cats is a big one that people are really freaked out about.
And yeah, they are. In fact, I had read on our ethical aromatherapy board that some people will just use inhalers around cats in their house. They won't open a bottle, they won't diffuse, they won't blend. All they have is an inhaler because they have heard that essential oils are toxic to cats. And the answer to that is yes and no. And we are studying with Carolyn Ingram, who is the founder of...
Oh, her belief is in...
No, what's the name?
Zoopharmacognosy.
Right, zoopharmacognosy. And
zoopharmacognosy really is that her belief is that the animal knows best what it needs.
And so it's called self-selection when you work with essential oils and animals.
That's the common term.
Yeah, self-selection. And
so can I, just to be clear, cats do not have an enzyme that can digest properly in their liver the essential oils. So we'd never use essential oils on cats, on their fur, on their paws. They cannot take them internally because they do not have an enzyme.
They can't process certain things. So essential oils should never touch a cat. Never on the fur, never on the nose, never, never, never touch a cat. But that doesn't mean that you can't diffuse in your home or use essential oils in your home around your cats or your dogs. So how do we know this? We know this because we have 4 dogs and we have 7 cats. And we own an essential oil company. Bella comes to the shop with me all the time, so do the other dogs, and they sit under their little table and we pour and we blend and we package and off they go and they're all healthy. And the cats, we have 7 cats and we diffuse and we teach and there's oils all over and the cats are fine. In fact, our cats live to be 20, 21 years old. So the thing about essential oils and pets is if you get trained, severely trained, you would be able even to use essential oils with your pets. But
with proper training.
With way, way, way proper training. But to diffuse in your home is really not a danger. It's just to leave the door open so that if the pet, they're smart. If they don't like the smell, they're going to go away. You know, so if they have a bellyache, they don't eat. And so they have an intrinsic knowledge that we really should respect. So I have here 2 different types of diffusion. This is like a little humidifier, and it's called Ambient Diffusion. It bubbles up like that. If any of you are old as I do, if any of you are as old as I am, like the Addams family used to have this smoke, you know, and so that's what this is like. It's filled with a little bit of water. You put a couple of drops of essential oil in it, and this is Ambient Diffusion. This, though, is another story. This is filled with pure essential oil. Only. You turn it on, and it's like a nebulizer. An aromatizer, actually, is how it was first developed. This sprays little droplets of pure essential oil into the air, and this should never be used around pets or kids.
The nebulizer type is really more of a treatment for a certain condition. It's more like application of medicine, using the essential oil in that way. The diffuser itself, the one that has the little mist that goes into the air, that's more of an ambient. You're putting microscopic drops into the air with lots of that vapor, that moisture from the water that goes into that diffuser.
And it's safe.
And we do recommend, you know, opening a door. I mean, some of you might live in small contained spaces. Open a window if you can, if you're concerned. And that's the thing too. If you're worried or if you have any fear or any concern, don't do it. But keep in mind what Joyce said. We have a lot of animals that live here with us in this house. And we do use essential oils. We own a company. We're constantly surrounded by essential oils, and our animals are completely fine and healthy.
Yes, they are.
And live to be quite old. Joy
Yes.
had a cat that lived to be 20 years old.
Yes, she did.
Bella is very excited to make our blend today that we're going to be using, which dispels one of the myths that we talked about earlier about using lavender and tea tree. So we're going to make an acne relief blend in an aloe, Bella.
Oh,
Are we ready?
we're ready.
Yes. We're going to be making an acne blend today. And I've taken out two different methods of application for you to choose which one you'd like to use. So this is a 1 ounce treatment pump, and these are really fun because it's small. I carry something like this with me in my purse a lot. Sometimes I'll make different things and just carry them with me when I'm traveling. But this is a great treatment pump. So if you want to use this blend that we're going to create today as a facial toner, this would work really well. I also have, as an alternative, a little roller ball. Okay, and there are a few pieces to the different roller balls. This is glass. I really like the color too. And there are all these other pieces that go with it. This, of course, is the cap. It's a silver cap. And then this is the little roller piece. And this is the piece that goes inside. And I'll show you how to put this together after we make our blend. But I just wanted to show you that there are two different ways that you could actually make the same blend with two different bottles. So we have some gloves. I like to put some gloves on before I start blending. So that everything stays sanitary and clean. Especially if we're using acne blend, we want it to be sanitary. So here's our bottle, our 1 ounce bottle, and this is aloe. Aloe is going to be our carrier. Aloe makes a great carrier for an acne blend because it's water-based. So there's no oil in it at all. And it's a really nice texture and consistency, this aloe gel. So I'm just going to fill our bottle, our 1 ounce bottle, and leave a little bit room for our oils. So the oils that I've chosen to use today are really skin friendly as well as acne fighting. So that's why you can use it as a toner as well. I have tea tree, lavender angustifolia, true lavender, and palmarosa. Palmarosa is a beautiful, beautiful skin oil, and it's also going to add a nice rosy, lemony rosy aroma to our blend because sometimes tea tree can be quite medicinal smelling. It's kind of harsh sometimes, but because it's an acne blend, we need to add the tea tree to this. So I'm going to start by adding, this is 1 ounce, so our dilution is going to be at 3%. So I'm going to add between 15 and 18 drops to make this a 1 ounce carrier, a 3% dilution. So I'm going to start with 5 drops of tea tree. And this is really good that this is happening because people say all the time, either my drops come out too fast or my drops come out too slow. Or what happens is they start to pour out. Okay, that was 5. Sometimes you just have to be patient and wait for the drops to come out. This is lavender, true lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, and I'm going to add 5 drops of this as well. And then the last one was palmarosa. Has that beautiful lemony aroma, lemony rosy aroma. And I'm going to add 5 drops of this as well. Real simple. 5 drops, 3 different essential oils. I get my 15 drops, which is the 3% dilution. Now I'm going to put my cap on, screw it closed, and just give it a really good shake so that the oils get evenly dispersed in the aloe mixture. And here we have our facial toner. Now if you want to do this and to make this blend in a roller ball, you do the same thing. The roller ball, however, is a little bit, it's about ½ an ounce. So I'm going to use 7 to 8 drops, half the amount because this was a 1 ounce, and this is about a ½ ounce. So I'm going to fill my roller ball. Sometimes it's a little hard to see, but about the same way, about 3/4 of a way, just to leave some room for the essential oils. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Because I'm going to use about 6 or 7 drops, it'll be about 2 drops of each. And if I get one more, that's totally fine. And now we're going to use our lavender. And try and get 2 drops of lavender in here as well. And the last one was that beautiful Pomarosa. Two drops of Pomarosa. These roller balls are really popular now. People use them sometimes to roll on their temples for headaches, but this is a really nice spot treatment for any acne breakouts. And we're making this blend, remember, we're making this blend today to show you that it really is safe to use lavender and tea tree, because some of you might have young boys, and now you know that it's totally safe to use lavender and tea tree with those young boys. And so then you're just going to roll it on. Different treatment spots on the face is totally safe and totally wonderful. And it smells great. So we're so glad that you've joined us here at Stillpoint Online. And we have a lot of fun creating these classes. So if you have any ideas or you'd like to learn a little bit more about something, just drop us a line, join us on Facebook. We have a great group of individuals that you guys can correspond with. And any questions or thoughts or ideas, just drop us a line.
And we love you guys. So come join us and come join Bella Chica.